Hello, Global Talk.
Dr. Kim is back once again. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Chilly outside today, huh?
Very cold for me.
Yeah, winter is coming. No, winter is here.
It is here with us.
All right, let's get started with a quiz question, shall we?
Quiz for today is this. To forbid or to prohibit something is to blanket. What goes into this blank? Number 1, ban. Number 2, tan. Number 3, naan. I think naan is Indian bread. So
it is, yes.
It's supposed to be a verb, but so let me repeat it.
Yeah.
To forbid or to prohibit something is to ban. Number 1, to tan. Number 2, to naan.
Number 3.
Number 3.
All right. If you know the answer, put it on our Bundy board or use Kakao Talk or text in on your cell phone, pounder sharp 1045 for 50 or 101. Depending on the length of your text, we are giving away an iRiver Chisol Salgyungi. All right, so this week we start in India, where over the past week they had what is called denominization, correct?
Right, demonetization.
Demonetization, excuse me.
Demonetization.
And what they're doing is they are banning the use of big rupee bills.
Right. And it's been a little bit while. I mean, on the same day, not last week, but on the same day when the Americans elected Donald Trump, November 8th, Indian Prime Minister actually announced his decision to ban the use of high-value bills, currency bills, or banknotes. And the ones that are banned are 500 rupee bill and then 1,000 rupee bill. 500 rupee is about, in Korean won, it's about 8,600 won.
So, okay.
So it's not that big.
8,600won.
Right. And then 1,000 rupee is about 170, 17,200.
Yeah, so one is less than manwon and one is less than imanwon, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So not that big, but for India, those are the big bills. And so all of a sudden, the use of those bills were prohibited or banned. And so people have been still continuing, have been lining up in lines to exchange their bills to smaller bills.
Oh my goodness, what a logistical nightmare, I would think.
Exactly. In this country where you have so many people and so many places you have to already line or queue up to get something, now you have added long lines of, changing bank bills or money in front of the ATMs and then the banks and stuff. So it's a big chaos. It's a big time confusion and headaches.
In Korea, there's a huge card culture here, right? People don't use cash for very many things.
Right. Even in the convenience stores and then buses and stuff, we use credit cards. But in India, they use this cash a lot.
That was going to be my question. Do they have a card culture there that it is as popular here in Korea? But I guess the answer is no.
I guess India is a country that has a long way to go in terms of kind of, converting their use of currency into this electronic means of settlement.
So what's going to happen here?
Really difficult.
Is this long term? Is this permanent, or is this a temporary decision?
Because it is a permanent decision for these bills, and so they are going to actually issue different bills for these high value notes. But for now, first step is to ban those high value bills, 500 rupees and then 1,000 rupees. So if you have your money all kind of like stored up in your home or in your pillow under the blanket or something, you have to get those money out. And then you have to bring them to the bank and then exchange them for lower value currencies.
Lineups at the banks now must be so long.
Very difficult. And so there have been so much chaos, and especially poor people who have actually saved their money at home in these large, bills, they have been having difficulty because they could not quickly convert their currencies. They have been having difficulty buying things, necessary daily stuff. So there have been reports of suicides and people getting really angry. So it's sort of like a pandemonium that we have been seeing in India.
What's the reason for this then? The Indian government says that this was necessary to deal with corruption and promote transparency. So do they have any evidence that this will work, I guess.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, but this is a little bit of a familiar argument for Koreans too. When Korean government decided to issue 50,000 won bills, right? Big concern was that this is going to be used for corruption, people giving black money to other people in what here in Korea what we call apple boxes.
Okay.
You heard that, right? Like put them in,
Yes.
in the cash into a box and then give to the people without a trace. So they have said in Korea too, these high value bills are bad for the upholding the principle of openness and the transparency. And then that's what happened in India. The prime minister there said we have to get rid of this corruption and the lack of transparency by banning the bills. So let's make our society in India, the prime minister said, a transparent society. So let's get rid of these bills. That was his argument basically. And let me add one more: the tax evasion. If you make transactions through the electronic means, there are records, right? But if you use cash, it's difficult to find who has made how much money. So in India, the cash transaction has been used for the purpose of tax evasion. So corruption and tax evasion, those are the two key objectives.
So they are concerned, though, about the economic impacts. Economists are, that is, and we'll talk about that when we come back from ABBA, Money, Money, Money. Today with Dr. Kim Byung-ju, we are talking about the news from India recently, talking about their demonetization, banning the use of larger size bills in India. And I wanted to ask you, and I mentioned it before the break, what are some of the economic impacts that we can look forward to, at least according to economists?
Right. The objective for this action, as I mentioned before the song break, was to address the issues of corruption and tax evasion. But however, let's think about this. Let's think about the monetary policy action that you use to encourage the economy or to boost up the economy. That is providing lots of cash, right? Right. I mean, they sometimes called in the United States after 2008 financial crisis, they called helicopter Bernanke using helicopter methods, kind of like pouring in money to boost up the economy.
Sure, more money in circulation, more money to be spent.
Exactly. So the economy gets boosted up, but what India did this time is totally opposite to this, basically. Even though they had a different objective, they ended up doing kind of tightening up the liquidity, tightening up the money supply, money circulation. They're talking about, reducing as much as like 86% of the cash circulation by this action.
86%.
Right, because these are high value bills. So this is a real impact. Of course, the Indian government will say, well, we have money circulation going on through the banks and electronic transactions and so on. We are fine. But on this heavily cash-based economy, this really reduces the circulation of money. So therefore, there will be considerable impact to reduce the economic activities. That's economists' concern. And then the other concern is about the poor people. I mean, if you think about rich people, of course, there will be some corrupt rich people who will stash up a lot of cash at home, probably somewhere in their safe or whatever. But that will be limited number of people. Mostly rich people might have already purchased gold or some kind of different assets, right, to keep their wealth. But it's poor people who usually in India, in countries like India, who do not actually have bank accounts. And these people working on their daily earnings often keep their earning in cash at home. And that's something that the Indian government did not consider too seriously here. So a lot of, poor people might actually end up losing their savings, they're saying, if they don't quickly convert their money. So this is hurting the overall economic, activities, number one, hurting the poor people in terms of their wealth savings, number two. So policymakers and economists elsewhere are saying this might not have been one of the optimal policy actions.
Well, if you have a 500, was it 500 or 5,000?
500 rupee and 1,000 rupee.
If you have those bills, will they become valueless after a certain period of time?
Right, exactly. When you ban a use of currency, that means it becomes no longer a currency recognized. It's just a paper.
So unless you
after
get
a certain date.
unless you get this done quickly, changing those notes, then you will lose all of that money. It's
Exactly.
like it just disintegrates in your hand.
Right, it becomes worthless.
Right.
It just becomes a paper. That's why there's this sense of crisis in the minds of the people who have kept lots of cash at home in the form of these currencies.
Any lessons for other countries here? We're short on time, but just to wrap it up with that question.
Right. And, any such kind of action is a very high risk one. And India has tried this. This is the third time that they have tried. And then previous two efforts, their success have been kind of limited. So we are seeing once again, we have to be very careful about this. Korea actually have tried, I think, a few times during the 50s and 60s. And one time it kind of succeeded, the other time it didn't work out. So for developing countries, this kind of dramatic action is not like strongly recommended. You have to be very careful about its consequences and ramifications.
But they have tried it before, so at least they know what to expect to a certain level.
But
if there was precedent from before.
That's true, a certain level. But countries and governments, they often change, right? And they often forget these kind of past lessons easily.
Interesting nonetheless. All right, Dr. Kim, thank you very much. Answer to your quiz question, please.
The answer to the quick question, to forbid or prohibit something is, of course, number one, to ban it.
Yes, and the iRiver Chisor Salgyungi will go to 1691님. Congratulations to you. Dr. Kim, thank you very much. Have yourself a great week. We'll see you again next time.
See you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.